Considered by many as the most influential woman of the 20th century, Lise Meitner is one of the most remarkable women to have walked the earth, and yet probably you've never heard of her. Lise Meitner was born on November 7th, 1878 in Vienna, Austria, as the third of 8 children. Her father insisted that all his children have the same educational opportunities regardless of their gender. She was lucky as a child to be held at the same standards as her male counterparts. Sadly, that luck didn't carry out into her adulthood. From a young age, Lise felt a liking towards physics, and that liking never seemed to die down. It only became stronger. When she graduated from the University of Vienna in 1906, she became the first woman to earn a doctoral degree in physics from the University of Vienna. After her graduation, she went to Berlin to work in radioactivity with Max Planck and chemist Otto Hahn, who would go on to become her longtime collaborator. During their studies on radioactivity, Meitner and Hahn combined her knowledge of physics and his knowledge of chemistry. Their studies were held at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, but throughout her work there, she was considered to be a guest and was not given a salary because her boss did not want women in the labs, giving the reasoning of their hair might catch on fire from the Bunsen burners. And the sexism that Meitner faced did not stop at the lab too. She was once rejected from publishing an article when the publisher found out her first name because he, and I quote, would not think of printing an article written by a woman. She only started to get paid in 1913 when the University of Prague offered her an assistant professor position. That was only a year before World War I. In the duration of the Great War, Lise took a break from science and became an X-ray technician. Once the war was over, she went right back into the lab in 1917. Her first big accomplishment after her hiatus was the discovery of the element protactinium. Meitner was offered her own radioactive physics department in the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, the very place she was denied being given salary to. Then, in 1922, she discovered an atomic phenomenon named the Auger Effect. The effect is named after the scientist that discovered it 2 years after Lise did. Despite all the hardships she went through, she was still Germany's first female physics professor. Lise Meitner was Jewish, so when in 1938 Austria was taken over by Germany, she had to flee to Sweden. She did not let the change in location stop her and continued her work in Måns Zelmerlöws Institute in Stockholm, but with little support, might I add. Mostly due to Zelmerlöws' prejudice against women in science. He refused to give Meitner assistance, equipment, and even the keys to her own lab. In November of the same year, she met up with an old friend, Otto Hahn. Together, they planned a series of experiments that provided evidence for nuclear fission. They were published in January of 1939. These series of experiments made her the first person to understand what happens during nuclear fission. But the matter is that Lise was exiled from Germany due to her being Jewish, and that made Otto publish their findings and Lise's own theory on his own without giving her any credit. Otto went on to win the 1944 Nobel Prize for Chemistry for the discovery of nuclear fission. While Hahn was winning over left and right, Meitner was offered to work on the Manhattan Project, which was a research and development that focused on creating nuclear weapons. Eventually, she rejected the offer, refusing her work being used for bad intentions. The most important award she was honored with was the Enrico Fermi Award in 1966, finally for nuclear fission, alongside Fritz Strassmann and once again Otto Hahn. She retired in 1960 in Cambridge, where she lived until the end of her life. Not only did Lise Meitner manage to engrave her name in history books forever, but she also had a crater in the moon, a crater in Venus, and an asteroid named after her. She even has the element meitnerium named in her honor. She passed away in October 27, 1968. Her tombstone inscription reads, a physicist who never lost her humanity.